So yeah, I'll get to this article I want to read. Maybe make an YouTube audio for. But this is real thought provoking. I didn't know this until a few weeks ago, or actually backtrack. I found this quality. I saved it to the PC. The Nature Coast video. It's talking about the popular spots on the Nature Coast, and it showed them snorkeling Manatee Springs, and it showed some fish. I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested to see what fish are in there, because I saw some sunfish, or some little fish at least. Time I snorkeled, probably wasn't peak season. It was in October, but and I saw a grass carp. I was like, what? Those are invasive. How is there grass carp in there? I did not know the Suwannee River has grass carp, and I looked it up. I found this quality article, yeah, that they escaped and they found diploid grass carp, which I had heard that they escaped somewhere and were probably breeding out there in America. But I didn't know the Suwannee River was one suspected area that was on their radar. And I found this is a posted trade, one of those trade magazines, aquatic plant management from summer 2011, talks about the grass carp in the Suwannee River. So let's get to it. And about before I start, the Florida right to clean water. Um, I've kind of had a turnaround of feelings toward it. I feel, especially after watching, they had a special Zoom meeting about just talking about it in general with some guest speakers. There was like there are hundreds of people, almost 200, up to 200 watching, and several speakers talking about the importance of trying to get the right to clean water amendment on the ballot. And it could do something, get the foot in the door, right, because right now there's nothing. The water districts don't care. All the people that did care about using too much water, they got fired from the water district, or at least people in power in the water districts. I still see them posting stuff on social media that seems to help to a certain extent, but the business as usual is killing Florida. That's part of the big issue. So hopefully, people will keep fighting it. I can't be all 100% environmentalist just because of my resilience, my spot in life, and just how attached I can be. Change is going to be inevitable whether this thing passes or not. People keep moving to Florida, etc. But it'll still stay wild. It'll still, even with more visitors, I suppose, less secrets over time, maybe. But it's like most people prefer the spring-fed rivers, anyways, or their local rivers, not having to travel far just to go to a Blackwater River. But I can talk on and on about Suwannee River and the significance, but it's still a gray area. I'm still grieving. I'm still going through the motions of not being too attached, but still majorly attached, and that's fine. There's still much to learn, much to appreciate, and I'm not going to fight myself, right? But I'm going to keep learning, keep having a broad world view or state view. I don't know. You can learn a lot about nature, not just from Florida, I suppose. Okay, but before I just get stuck in a stagnant, yeah, just don't be stagnant in life, man. If you just keep trying things, and cause you can always recover. You can't recover from just being a stagnant mess of a human, I don't know. It's how it seems like to me. Okay, but I still think it's very interesting. Like, how the heck does Suwannee River have grass carp? You'd think. I mean, maybe there's some factors I haven't really thought about that make it. The Suwannee still has a big fish diversity, has gators, but I guess grass carp are pretty resilient. They can spread all over the place, and maybe the freezes don't quite get to the. I think they proliferate up north too, but don't quote me on that. Maybe the article will expand upon that. Okay, so I'll try to read through the article and maybe go through some reactions at the end. We'll see. Okay, grass carp in the Suwannee River, Florida. This is by Bruce V. Jaggers, Alan Martin, and Joe Hinkle. Okay. On February 3rd, 2010, the FWC collected 27 grass carp from the Suwannee River at the mouth of Manatee Springs and within Manatee Springs Run. 21 live grass carp were transported to a private fish hatchery in Hampton, Florida, and ploidy, the number of chromosomes in the nucleus of a cell, was determined for each fish using such and such Coulter counter model ZF, which is a fast and reliable method of determining ploidy from blood samples. Information collected from these 21 grass carp is summarized in the table. Length was measured to the nearest quarter inch, weight to the nearest 0.10 pound. Triploid grass carp, 3 sets of chromosomes, are functionally sterile due to an uneven number of chromosome sets, whereas diploids are potentially fertile, therefore capable of reproducing in suitable habitats. Okay. It talks about herbicides are used, okay, I'll just keep reading it, even if some of it is kind of redundant. Aquatic plants are a natural part of Florida lakes, rivers, and springs, providing food, habitat for reproduction, and shelter for numerous species of fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. In general, biologists recommend that 30 to 50% of a lake or pond have rooted aquatic vegetation to maintain a healthy ecosystem. However, non-native plants can sometimes take over a water body, reducing the amount of open water to levels that preclude recreation and other vital functions of the ecosystem. Herbicides are costly and can have undesirable side effects. Grass carp, one of the few fish which eats plants, can provide a low-cost, long-term, herbicide-free means of dealing with aquatic plant problems. They're imported from Asia in the 1970s for use as a biological control agent to control excessive growth of aquatic vegetation. I'll talk about it later. My experience on a job with the headaches of trying to get grass carp. Okay. However, too many grass carp have potential to eat all aquatic plants in a system and disrupt natural functions. To prevent grass carp from spawning and becoming another environmental problem, only grass carp certified as triploid may be stocked in Florida waters, which requires a permit from FWC. Required to stock triploid grass carp in Florida. Some redundant info there. Okay, inspection is required before the fish can be transported across state lines and released. Pretty standard stuff. How did grass carp get into other water bodies? On February 3rd, 2010, finding of grass carp from the Suwannee River near the mouth of Manatee Springs within Manatee Springs Run is only the second substantial documentation of diploid grass carp collected from open Florida waters, the first being from the St. Johns River in the early to mid 1990s. 5 of 21 grass carp sampled from Manatee Springs were documented as diploid. 24% of the sample population were diploid. Discovery of diploid grass carp in the Suwannee River was not totally unexpected. Oh, didn't know that. Some anecdotal evidence exists suggesting that a flooding event on the Withlacoochee River, North Withlacoochee River, a tributary to the Suwannee River, facilitated the escape of diploids from a private Georgia hatchery in the 1980s. At least one other private Georgia hatchery sells grass carp within the Alapaha floodplain, also a tributary of the Suwannee River flowing south from Georgia. See, that's one of the problems. You have more volume of water, but you also have more potential of something going awry. The bigger a water basin is, river basin, I mean. Okay. FWC has never issued a permit to stock triploid grass carp in a Florida river system. Oh, I didn't know that. Huh. However, there have been several documented illegal releases of grass carp in Florida, some of which were diploid. In the early to mid 1990s, several grass carp collected from the St. Johns River at George Kirkpatrick Dam, Rodman Reservoir, were documented as diploid from blood samples examined under a microscope. Rue Hestan Personal Communication 2010. Blood samples are not as reliable as the Coulter counter technology for determining diploidy. Schools of grass carp have also been observed in the Caloosahatchee River. Oh, I didn't know. I don't remember reading that. The Kissimmee River, also from 2010, personal communication, and Spruce Creek. Apparently, Spruce Creek is in Volusia, somewhere in Volusia County. There is some concern regarding the potential impacts of these grass carp on vegetation in estuaries and other backwater areas associated with these rivers. Department of Environmental Protection Park personnel at Blue Springs Park, St. Johns River, and Volusia County have recently observed grass carp in increasing numbers and currently possess an FWC permit to remove them from the spring run. No aging or food habits were investigated on the grass carp sample collected from the Suwannee River and Manatee Springs. However, the range of fish sizes suggests that at least several year classes were represented. Most of the fish appeared to be in moderately good to good condition based on length and weight. Of the diploid fish, 2 of the males appear to be in good condition and the females in excellent condition based on length, weight, and body fat. Good conditioning in grass carp is important for high fecundity and successful spawning, as the fish normally do not feed much or at all prior to spawning, from a source in 1983. And it goes on to ask if grass carp are reproducing in Florida waters. It seems like it is, but let me read this real quick, make sure it's worth mentioning. And also, it's just interesting in its own right, even if, grass carp are not my favorite, but it's part of Florida nature, even if it's not native, changing all the time. But, I love the Suwannee River, so I'm definitely interested in what's going on, problems, and things that are going good. Which, nowadays, like, more problems than, and they're still there. If, just a few years ago, a video, somebody snorkeling there still shows grass carp. So, anyways. Okay, next subsection are grass carp reproducing in Florida waters. Although natural reproduction by grass carp has never been documented in Florida, the presence of diploid grass carp in the Suwannee River raises questions. The Suwannee River is one of the few water bodies in Florida with the right conditions for grass carp reproduction, which requires a long stretch of sufficiently flowing water to allow time for fertilized eggs to remain buoyant and develop. It's from sources in 1983 and 1978. Grass carp reproduction requires closely parallel the successful spawning requirements for striped bass. To date, FWC personnel have not reported collecting juvenile grass carp from the Suwannee River or its tributaries. However, nekton, which are free-swimming aquatic organisms, sampling and the positive identification of grass carp larvae and or eggs would confirm grass carp reproduction in the Suwannee River. Reproduction of grass carp in the Suwannee River appears to be concentrated at Manatee Springs. Observations by Bruce Jaggers, FWC, in February 2009 estimated over 100 grass carp in the Suwannee at the mouth of Manatee Springs. Joe Hinkle, FWC, also estimated more than 100 grass carp in the same location in October 2009. Reports of grass carp from other areas of the Suwannee River and its tributaries are mostly of sporadic individuals or small groups. However, John Layer, FWC contractor, reported schools of grass carp and other feeder creeks in the lower Suwannee, as well as attracting grass carp to a fish feeding station at his residence on the Santa Fe River. Joe Hinkle, Personal Communication 2010. It's not clear why grass carp congregate in large numbers in Manatee Springs, but Shireman and Smith, 1983, report that grass carp overwinter in deep holes in the lower reaches of rivers without feeding. Whew, okay, so it seems like they're here to stay. Kind of sucks, but, I don't know if they're doing anything to curtail their numbers. It seems like they can be a real nuisance, but I'll see if the rest is worth reading or if I find any other interesting articles about it. Yeah, so before I forget to say, yeah, I've noticed them, or I know they're in some lakes and ponds. I think that's where they're really only allowed to be stocked, right? Because even this article says that they haven't been allowed to be released in rivers. And of course, that time in Brandon off of Lakewood, we put up that fish gate because we thought, they were going to get the okay for grass carp to be put in one of the nearby ponds, and then that gate in front of a culvert would have blocked it, or we put it up. That was a real pain. There's even more of a pain trying to get it out and trying to spin it and all that jazz. But yeah, they assumed that they were going to get the permit for grass carp. They said, nope, absolutely not. And we had to take out the barrier. It's a real pain in the butt. But goes to show, I guess that's largely because of incidents like this. They try not to approve the grass carp stalking. Okay, let me just read the rest of it. I think I'm pretty tired. I'm going to slip off to bed unless I find some other very interesting information, maybe, or I'll just make another talk, maybe. Okay. There's been growing concern regarding Asian carp reproduction in the United States, particularly in the Mississippi River system. Conover et al., 2007. Carp reproduction has been most recently been confirmed in the Trinity River, Texas, a much smaller system than the Mississippi River. A risk analysis was recently completed relative to the use of triploid grass carp in Florida. Preliminary results reported here would seem to indicate that feral grass carp population may persist in the Suwannee River due to illegal introductions, escape from permitted stocking sites and/or hatcheries, and possibly natural reproduction. Because it's not all triploid carp that they're finding. It was only like 20% were, so some of them were escaped, those escaped triploid that were developed to be sterile. Anyways, this has some implications for habitat management, particularly FWC's springs, working groups, the manatee management section, and Division of Freshwater Fisheries Management. Previous research has shown that grass carp have food preferences for such species such as hydrilla and southern naiad over species such as Vallisneria, Lingbaia, and Hygrophila. However, even a low number of grass carp can hinder reestablishment of a non-preferred species such as Vallisneria once it disappears, e.g. from manatee grazing or natural population cycling. It kind of sucks. Okay. Manatee Springs had abundant Vallisneria and/or hydrilla recently, 1990s and early 2000s, but is now dominated by macrophytic algae, including Vaucheria species. Smith and Mizich, 2004. Of course, that Vaucheria, I think I'm about 98% sure that was the same one, that Suwannee River Grief article saying that it's in pretty much terminal decline and has, I guess, ever since past the early 2000s, it's been dominated by algae more than submerged vegetation, apparently. Okay. But it's now dominated by macrophytic algae, including Vaucheria species and Lingbaia. What the heck is Lingbaia? I'm surprised I don't know what that is. Let me see. Lingbaia is a large-celled filamentous mat-forming cyanobacterium. Huh. Oh, it's a type of filamentous algae. Ah, that sucks. Yeah, okay. So, of course, Manatee Springs for pretty much 20 years now, almost 20 years, it's been dominated by algae. Pretty much sucks. Anyways, let me get through this article, try to enjoy it. Where the heck did it go? Okay. Yeah, apparently the grass carp may be a contributing or even a dominant factor in this long-term change in vegetation at Manatee Springs. Although, of course, because the algae is largely from the fertilizer, pollution, and stuff from nearby agriculture. Anyways, reestablishment of beneficial aquatic vegetation in Suwannee River Springs, particularly Manatee Springs, would likely require at least initial protection from herbivores, such as manatees, grass carp, and turtles. Long-term exclusion of herbivores from selected areas may be required in order to maintain a local seed stock of desirable aquatic vegetation. But is that really practical? how are they going to block those animals from doing their thing, I don't know. In addition, selection of non-preferred aquatic plant species may yield better results than selecting species preferred by grass carp, as well as provide excellent recommendations for establishing aquatic plants and protecting them from herbivores. Oh, that's just saying these guys know what they're doing. They probably know. And it just has some recommendations for further research, investigate grass carp, investigate what they're doing, their ages, population structure. And I don't think there's been any additional research on that, but let me look that up. Okay, so I haven't at least found what their status is now in the river. I mean, they're still there, it seems like, but I found this interesting. This is from a Plants iFast website. Here's some plants preferred by grass carp: hydrilla, coontail, muskgrass, naiad, slender spikerush, and jointed spikerush. Those submerged invasive grasses or plants. Here are plants not preferred by grass carp: water hyacinth, water lettuce, water lilies, torpedo grass, hygrophila, and cattail. I mean, hygrophila is one of those, I'm pretty sure that's one that's submerged. It kind of resembles alligator weed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's native. Don't quote me on all that. Yeah, it's a submerged plant. And hygrophila, genus of flowering plants. Oh, it's an invasive. Huh. Okay. Yeah, it resembles alligator weed. Where's it from? Apparently, hygrophila is from Malaysia and India, which is kind of weird. You'd think grass carp would eat them. They're also from Asia, but apparently not. Let me see where Asian grass carp are from. Their native range is from North Vietnam to the Amur River on the Sino-Russian border. Okay, so they're from China. Grass carp are resident fish of large turbid rivers and associated floodplains, lakes, wetlands, with a wide range of temperature tolerance and spawn temperatures between 68 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, those springs, manatee springs, that's definitely in that temperature range. Yeah, so that's really concerning for especially Suwannee River, as that article said earlier, they prefer flowing water. So actually, it was 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit for spawning. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that these grass carp are majorly impacting the river. Probably are if they are breeding. If it's patchy, I'm not finding any research for. Maybe one day I'll find the best research paper on it without even searching for it. These search engines suck nowadays, even if I do quotations around certain keywords. So I'm just going to put a bookmark in that for now. The Suwannee River continue to change as most Florida ecosystems are, most ecosystems in the world. Humans suck, but the river will continue on, even with invasive species, even with more pollution, less springs have been in decline for a while now. It's something to keep in mind. You can learn from it, you can enjoy the variety, and yeah. Because ultimately, if I only study the Suwannee, if I only feel attached to Suwannee, I'm not going to have a as full, fulfilling life, Even if, I think I really overemphasize the importance of the top, what feels like top quality species, the top quality places, and they're all gray areas anyways. It's all subjective to a certain extent. And I mean, it's like, how have I kayaked so much? I haven't even seen any river otters on the river yet, right? I mean, you hear about it on like Rainbow River, or I mean, I'm surprised I didn't see any garfish until recently at Weeki Wachee. So there's that. But that's one of the hugest springs. Like, I did not expect. Apparently, it has one of the most massive cave systems, very, very deep. And for a while there, I found a quality article. Apparently, they couldn't even go down into the Weeki Wachee cave system until fairly recently with declining flows or drought conditions. Yeah, I think it's mostly drought conditions. They can go down hundreds of feet. The more I think about it, I can believe it. Those narrow passages, and you have such a high quantity of water constantly flowing out of those. I can only imagine how hard it is for those mermaids to constantly perform it with those conditions. But so yeah, I know it's only a matter of time before I see that again. Okay, I need to get to bed here. Good times, and I dragged this out longer than I expected, but still interesting stuff, I suppose. Okay, cool.